Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Let's All Go to the Trailers. Did I get it right?
That's the first time, yeah.
That's for video games specifically. Do we want Let's All Go to the game trailers, to be specific?
No, because we don't want to mislead people. There's no video that isn't about video games on our site.
Sometimes there is.
Yeah, you're right.
Your show pushes it every now and then.
Stop it.
Have you guys seen the user movies?
I am Brandon Jones, and with me is Mr. Kyle Bosman.
Hi, everybody.
And Mr. Ryan Stevens.
Howdy.
And we're back for another week to watch game trailers. We're not going to break the stride. We're just going to jump right into it and kick it off with something that we actually got the day that we recorded the last episode and didn't put it up until Monday. But this is Darkest Dungeon, and I'm a big fan. I can go on and on about this, but Ryan, you pointed this out to me.
Yeah, this was it's funny. This was one of the first games that we talked about back in Invisible Walls when we kind of had the little trailer talk. Everything about this fits into like my inner cookie cutter that is Ryan. There's like overwrought language, alliteration, awesome animatics, thick pencil lines, and then they show gameplay, and I think it all looks intriguing, and I like how this is basically just like a fancy animatic tied together with a couple parallax effects and a really kind of wrought narrator. And I think this is actually the part his voice out almost cracks a little bit, where you almost can hear his kind of energy seep out, and it's a little melodramatic towards the end, but like everything about this is just me like chanting yes, yes, yes.
I think it is extremely melodramatic throughout, but which I wonder if it's intentional.
Like, I wonder, the gun click.
Well, right.
Yeah.
But I mean, him in the beginning, though, he kind of, his voice gets a little, much.
Yeah,
like
you should do a sound up, actually. We should hear his voice for a second, because it's a funny accent, even.
Yeah.
You remember our venerable house, opulent and imperial, gazing proudly from its stoic perch above the moor.
Specifically, just how into it he is. Like, I wonder, it's one thing like to get a guy that sounds like that, and it's another thing to get a guy that sounds like that who also does a voice on top of it.
That's one of the Kickstarter tiers. If you give enough money, the narrator will say a sentence for you.
Oh, that's great. and again, we talked about this last week a little bit, but I like the zooms and the tilts on the gameplay, so it's not just static. We're not just staring at it, full frame the whole time. It kind of helps make it a little more emotional, even though we know the game probably won't. It'll be jarring if it was actually played like that.
Did you catch the Arrested Development Easter egg?
No.
In the beginning, in the gameplay, there's a character named Job, and he clicks on something and he says, "I've made a huge mistake."
Well, but that fits
kind of out of tone for the game.
But that fits. I need to watch more of that show. But that fits in, I think, with the aesthetic, though. I think that's fairly invisible. And I think there was a great build-up to gameplay. I think it was, by the time we finally saw gameplay, I thought that, the cinemas we saw in the beginning, it was the same art style, They didn't do, like, an elaborate CG cutscene or something. I think it all fits into the aesthetic.
I also like how it has that, it does that kind of montage shot where the party becomes less and less people. And it talks to the game mechanics of people going insane and turning on each other and stuff. Without being explicit about it, it kind of represents it with the gameplay and the narration, and I think that's a pretty good job. Does a pretty good job. Any thoughts, Kyle?
Yeah, I like it a ton. I really, really like this trailer, and kind of how we covered last week, I'm excited when a trailer is willing to show its gameplay straight. Like, it's showing us what the menus look like, and, what a typical little battle might be like. And, so much context. I really like just showing you where this game is and the world it takes place in. This does everything a good trailer should, really.
I also kind of got an Internal Darkness vibe from this. Like, kind of like the one house and everything underneath it. I always like that stuff. If you've ever seen House 2, it's a good B movie. But
is that the one with Greatest American Hero?
It has the guy from Cheers, Cliff from Cheers, isn't it? It's like an electrician.
Yeah, isn't there like a big fat woman who gets her hand cut off, and like the hand is like the reoccurring gag throughout the movie? You gotta like hide the hand, and like the dog like digs it up out of the yard and comes in with the hand.
Could be.
And it's like a giant nailed crazy. Okay.
I hope it is.
But yeah, I'm. It's funny you mention that, Ryan. I'm way into gothic horror and Lovecraft and all this stuff. I think this is definitely playing towards a very specific aesthetic. Like, I don't know if they don't really specifically say Mouth of Madness or
no, but that looks like
it
looks like a little Cthulhu guy, like on that pace, little octopus guy. And if anyone's been reading Lock and Key, just finished, but that was Stephen King's son's comic book, where it's like the whole house is not like so much haunted, but just like portals to other worlds and stuff. It kind of get that cool idea from
his poor children. What else can they do? They got to work their nightmares out, some way.
And comic books.
I also think this is a great example of how to sell an independent, less than a game that's not super actiony, that doesn't have a lot of cinemas you can already cut with. Like, it was obviously kind of an uphill battle trying to sell this to people, even though it's just like a side-scrolling RPG. And I think this trailer suggests that it's a little more than you would first look at just from screenshots. I think they did a good job selling it, even though I think it's just a little bit cheesy, which is why I'd give it a 7.8 at the end of the day. I think if they either have been a little more obvious with the cheese or toned down the cheese, I'm not sure. I think the guy's just a little too much Parmesan for me.
9.2 I'm willing to give this game. I think it's I'd say that's an intentional cheese. I think if they have a character named Job who says I've made a huge mistake, they're showing there's a little lightness to the Darkest Dungeon.
I just want to be more critical because I'm always really happy about trailers, and then you guys crap on them, so we're going backwards this week.
Like 9.5, like everything, I've watched this like 14 times, and even though there's nothing super crazy, it's just so well put together and gets me so excited. And it's funny because you say cheese, and I would say it's kind of on the side of what I'd call camp, where it's really earnest, but it's kind of self-aware at the same time. Which I think a lot of video games do, but this way it's also a little more serious, and I think camp can also be serious.
This is true.
Yeah.
Except
summer camp.
It just sometimes aesthetically, I like to really put my finger on like what exactly am I watching? Is a joke being made to me, or am I supposed to take this seriously? Especially when we're grading stuff. Okay, moving on. Not to throw retrospectives in the show whenever somebody makes one, but this came out today? I think we're recording this on Thursday, and this is a retrospective of Strider, done in the style of the classic GT retrospective, which are now as old as the games that we originally did them on. But what do you think? Any love for Strider, Kyle Bosman?
Never played any of these Strider games, so this actually was educational for me. I like it's kind of casual, the way this person's willing to speak to us and everything. It's definitely a weird video to put out to promote the new Strider, because it's like ordered in a weird way. Because first he like shows you the 3 main Strider games, and then it's like Strider went on to be a great success, but then here's like a bunch of other weird information about him. Did you get the same feeling watching through this thing?
Well, that's was kind of the difficult part about retrospectives, is like, where do you start? Like, how do you structure the script? Like, how much time do you spend on each game? What's really the relevant information that you want to get to? Like, if you wanted to, you could make a 3-hour episode on just one game. Like, there's so much to talk about.
I thought this was great. I really respect Strider, and I think it's a weird kind of thing to do a retrospective because it's not really a story based. I always thought this the first game in particular is kind of more of a tableau. It's like a single idea. It's like the flavor text on a magic card. Like, you'll never leave Eurasia alive. Like, what's Eurasia? I want to know more about it. But all you really know is you're going around and you're killing a lot of weird dudes and you have a crazy weapon. Strider was always one of those games that you'd like. I think if you had infinite quarters, you'd realize it's a 14-minute game in the arcades. And then the home versions, as you can see, weren't exactly the same. But I do remember the Genesis version, which I've never got to play, was heavily advertised as being like the first 8 megabit cartridge and stuff like that. So it kind of has its place in history. And he does have all of this weird side stuff that he's been in. Like, obviously the Marvel vs. Capcom is probably the biggest deal. But to Kyle's point, I think it is a game that has settings way more important than story, and I think that does kind of sometimes becomes like a missed connection when you do something like a retrospective, which you kind of plan on plotting things together, so it feels a little threadbare in that way.
And I like he criticizes the PlayStation 2 game called Strider 2, which is clearly just a remake of the arcade game. It's not without its criticisms, this video, which is nice.
One thing that I think is nice about this, and we've dealt with this, Ryan, in talking to, we won't name names, of course, but dealing with clients when a game is coming out, that they're always really hesitant to bring up the past. Like, we always come, people are like, oh, we'd love to do a retrospective or some kind of history piece on your game. And they're like, we really want to focus on the new game. We don't want people to make comparisons between our old stuff. So we really don't want to, dig up the past. We really want to focus on this hot new product that we have. And so it's cool to see Capcom, who people really enjoy when Capcom revisits its history and respects its history, to make a video like this.
So Brandon's kind of peeling back the showing how the sausage is made a little bit, but like any video game site, we go after exclusives and some horse trading for coverage, and we love old games. Everyone at GT loves retrospectives. They are a huge time sink though. But between this and the Final Fantasy thing, man, like these guys are doing some cool stuff. Obviously Capcom is Capcom Unity, which is a great community. that they support, and it's great to see stuff like this coming out.
Well, with stuff like PlayStation Now and you know the getting an accessibility to old games not through illegal means, but through actually like buying these
Legitimate.
games, buying these games again and owning them digitally. That there's this kind of resurgence of information about like what is Strider, when did Mega Man first come out, how long has it been since Final Fantasy first launched. So I love that stuff. I love digging in because I didn't know everything when I did retros. 90% of the information that I wrote down on the page in each retro episode was like, I didn't know that before I, discovered it today. So I love this stuff. And then, of course, we wrap up with the new game.
And a great scarf.
Well, sorry, it's weird to just show his little cameos and then say, and now look where he is. Do you know what I mean? I feel like
because it's a marketing tool. In the end, it's a marketing tool. It's not a retrospective.
Like I would not have made a retro of Strider because it's like, what's the story? What's the arc?
Yeah.
And that a lot of people have come at me with retro ideas. I think Sonic was one that we heard over and over, and it was like, well, where do we end? What's the story? Where do you do? What's that last episode?
We showed the new crazy weird Knuckles guy.
Right.
What's it called now? Sonic Boom.
Yeah.
But it's always I always like when Tomb Raider was perfect because it was totally reinventing itself, so it was the perfect time to do that. But I only played the Genesis version, so I don't really have a history with Strider. But I think it was about how long is this? About 6 minutes? Do we think that's long enough to? That's about a third of your average GT retrospective episode, and they managed to wrap up the whole thing in one episode.
You're like, nice try, kid.
I think they did a good job. I don't know if Strider necessarily earns it. I'll give them a 7. Mr. Bosman, what do you think of the Strider retrospective?
I can't watch a retrospective without the voice of Brandon Jones. I give this a 2.
I give your score that you just gave a 10. Ryan Stevens.
I'm giving this an alphanumeric value of D8 for date, as in dated. It's fun, and I like the guy's kind of casual tone. He says some kind of goofy stuff.
Do we know this guy? Is this a guy?
It's probably
He's
a dude
definitely
at
a guy.
Capcom.
He's definitely a
Unity,
guy, yeah.
but I'm not quite
Does
sure.
he do videos for Capcom? I don't just go to Capcom's site and watch stuff.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just terrible for me to say. I should be like, I love that guy. It's that guy.
Yeah, you did a good job, guy. I'm sorry we don't know your.
What if his
player
name's
name.
Guy?
Well,
Guy.
We're wrapping it up.
Français.
Wrapping it up with a short one, but I really wanted to put this one trailer in here because I thought this was interesting. It's too bad we don't have Daniel Bloodworth on the show. He can maybe tell us a little bit more about World of Speed, but it had its debut trailer, and I don't know a thing about this game. I thought it was really weird. This is an MMO, right? Or some kind of like an open world
Yeah.
multiplayer racing game that I'm sure has some cool mechanics that they want to let people know about. And there's no text in this trailer other than the introduction at the very beginning. So I don't know what this game is about. It just looks like another racing game. And for a debut trailer, I think that's kind of swing and miss.
I guess they're expecting people to see it with context of like a press release or in a blog post or something like that. But I think you're right. If people are sharing this stuff,
I mean, you go to our game page and like
Yeah.
that's it. You go to if they have a YouTube channel, like that's it. This is the only video you have.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just think right out of the gate, you need to do something a little bit more. I mean, it looks good.
Yeah, it's
and,
pretty.
Certainly,
Right.
if there's a huge multiplayer aspect to it, I think it's awesome that they pulled it off, looking this good. But it's like locations. Okay, everything just seems really cookie cutter racing game. Kyle, you feeling this?
Well, so like I kind of cheated and I talked to Daniel Bloodworth about what this is because I was curious.
Subtext.
Yeah. And so what it is an MMO. It's an MMO racing game. And basically, it's from the team who's doing Project Cars, which is like the community-developed racing game. And it's just like this Russian company came to them and said, "Hey, would you make this game, please?" And they said, "Okay." So like basically, they're doing this to fund their passion project. They're kind of just dumping out this weird MMO game, team-based racing, basically, kind of like the two new next-gen racing games,
Drive Club and
that
other one.
Yeah. Shoot, what is the other one? The something. The Crew.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay.
And
And
It's not that bad.
So
it
actually,
just hasn't demoed.
both those games, good trailers where you get the idea of like, okay, this is a team-based racing game. I understand. This is just like, look at our cool graphics. Like, what are you doing?
And you don't necessarily have to like bog us down with text. Like even that little car slide, and all of a sudden I see it in a garage. I'm thinking like, oh, I can own this, or maybe I'm in that
Or
garage.
the trailer voice guy goes like, "The future of MMO racing is here."
Yeah, I don't want that. I want, again, kind of what we were talking about with Thief. It's nice to have just like a little context, a little bit of information, even maybe just some quick titles at the end that just kind of like, go through all the list all the features and everything. But yeah, again, just I think it's the first debut trailer that we've had on the show. and I think they need a little more info.
I don't know. It's so sad.
But is that a teaser then?
It does look beautiful. This thing looks great, and it just has no impact. Do you know, this is like a great looking game, but at the end of the day, it's not memorable to anyone, which really bums me out. This is where we are today.
Well, I think it's part of it's like it's realism, right? And it's realism without real character. I know they showed that one shot of the guy in the car, but I mean, we're used to looking at pretty cars, you know, in games, you know, even with the next gen stuff versus the last gen stuff. I think it's just less impactful.
So I give it a 5, my lowest score yet on this show. Kyle Bosman.
That's your lowest score yet, huh?
Yeah. Because it's still pretty.
You're saying this is an average trailer.
And it's a fun cut. You know,
5 is never average.
They did little, you got little wipes here and little moves and little, picture-in-picture stuff. And, it's not just like an edit, like I couldn't have done this in a day. This took a while.
Oh, there's definitely effort in the edit, but I think as the purpose of this trailer, you got to think of like what a trailer is for and what it's meant to do. It fails in every aspect. So I give this a 2.5.
I give it a 23 skidoo.
Mr. Bosman, now that we have you here, is there anything that we missed from Nintendo Direct? We didn't mention that, and that happened today.
Yeah.
Any trailers?
You gotta know, I was so hyped all yesterday, all today, looking forward to this Nintendo Direct. And what I do is I get too hyped. So good trailers, no huge announcements is the thing. Little Mac has a cool trailer. Kind of budget, actually. Real budget trailer. Like, Rosalina gets this huge intro video to her character, and then clearly they ran out of CG budget because they got this weird kind of...
I don't know, I felt like they were trying to match the next level game aesthetic, while Rosalina was trying to be kind of, like, wrapped up into, like, the Mario 3D-ness.
It's the only reveal trailer they've had so far with weird 2D art like that.
Okay. I just felt like, I mean, obviously, the Wii version wasn't... The Wii Punch-Out wasn't 2D, but it kind of had a 2D kind of sheen to it.
I don't know, man. You should watch that again. You should see that stuff. It looks great.
No, I thought it kind of reflected on that, though.
I don't know. I think they didn't have a great trailer budget, so it's like, let's put out this 2D thing for
But you notice stuff like that, so it's worth saying. Get the word out there that you won't stand for that kind of subpar animation.
Nintendo's out of money. Well, no. Spend it on your game. Don't spend it on your trailer. I'm okay with that, I guess.
Also this week, I liked the Humanity trailer for Dying Light. I'm pumped for that game. I liked Dead Island. I didn't get to play the expansion, but I love that game. I played this at E3, and I think it's fun. Obviously, a lot of work went in, very careful selection of the shots. And definitely a week to talk about Evolve. We got the new trailer for Evolve, and of course, we've talked about that at length on different GT shows. We won't get into that here, but if you haven't seen it, it is called the Happy Hunting trailer, and definitely check it out. And thank you, Mr. Ryan Stevens, and thank you, Mr. Bosman, for joining us again, and watch dem trailers. We'll see you guys next week.